Have you ever wondered why certain people cross your path? Sometimes it's not just chance, it's divine design. God places us in each other's lives for a purpose, to share, teach, and grow. Every interaction, whether short or lasting, is a chance to make a meaningful impact. In this article, we'll explore how you may have been the lesson someone needed, and how their growth is a reflection of your influence. Together, we'll uncover the deeper purpose behind your relationships and what lessons you've already taught. From recognizing your role as a life teacher to understanding the spiritual timing behind each relationship, we'll dive deep into how you influence others' growth. We'll explore the lessons you unknowingly impart, how success isn't always obvious, and how these experiences shape both you and the people around you. Recognizing your role as a teacher in someone's life as we reflect on how God placed us in others' lives with a divine purpose, we start to see the role we play in shaping those around us. We might not wear the label of teacher, but the impact we have can be as profound as any lesson taught in a classroom. Often, the most significant lessons are not verbal but in how we live, react, and support the people who cross our paths. Whether we realize it or not, our actions, words, and even silences serve as powerful lessons for others. Take, for example, Sarah, a woman in her mid-30s who found herself constantly caught in a cycle of self-doubt. She felt she wasn't living up to her potential, especially after a failed relationship that shook her confidence. One day, Sarah met Emma, a woman who had overcome similar challenges. Emma didn't offer advice or try to fix her. Instead, she simply listened. She shared her own story, not to boast, but to let Sarah know that it was okay to fail, and more importantly, it was okay to start over. Through Emma's empathy and quiet support, Sarah began to rebuild her life, slowly learning that setbacks don't define her worth. It wasn't a grand lecture or a life-changing epiphany. It was a series of small, compassionate moments that taught Sarah the value of self-compassion and resilience. We are often placed in situations where we don't realize the profound effect we are having. Whether it's guiding a friend through a tough breakup, encouraging a colleague to take on a new challenge, or even just sharing a smile with a stranger, these seemingly insignificant actions ripple through the lives of others. Sometimes, the lessons we teach are about qualities like patience, kindness, or forgiveness, traits that aren't necessarily learned in books or lectures, but through real-life encounters. Moreover, the lessons we teach are not always positive ones. At times, we may find ourselves unintentionally teaching others through our mistakes, failures, or struggles. These moments, though difficult, are valuable teaching tools. They show others the importance of resilience, the need to embrace vulnerability, and how to learn from missteps. Life doesn't always give us the chance to teach with a neatly wrapped bow. Sometimes, it's in the messiness of human experience that the most profound lessons are learned. The beauty of these lessons is that they are often cyclical. We don't just teach others. We also learn from them. In Sarah's story, she taught Emma the power of sharing her vulnerability and the strength in listening. We are all both teachers and students in this intricate dance of relationships. Our role as a teacher in someone's life is never one-sided. The lessons we impart often come back to enrich our own lives, making us more compassionate, patient, and aware. When we begin to recognize the role we play in others' growth, it transforms our perspective. We become more intentional in our actions, understanding that each moment holds the potential to teach or inspire. It's a reminder that God works through us, using us as instruments to pass on wisdom, love, and understanding to those who need it most. So, the next time you find yourself in a conversation, or even just offering a kind gesture, remember, you may be teaching someone a lesson they'll carry with them for a lifetime. It's not always about grand gestures. Sometimes, it's the smallest actions that leave the biggest imprint on someone's heart. The power of divine timing. Why you cross their path. As we recognize the lessons we unintentionally teach others, it's crucial to understand that these moments aren't just random occurrences. They're part of a bigger, divine plan. When you look back at the people who've entered your life, it's often clear that their arrival wasn't by accident. Sometimes, God places us in the right place at the right time to fulfill a purpose we may never fully grasp. The connections we make with others, especially the ones that lead to transformation, happen when we least expect them, but they are never without reason. Take the story of Tom, a man who found himself at a crossroads in his life after losing his job in his late 40s. He had worked in corporate for over 2 decades and felt completely lost without the structure and purpose his job provided. One afternoon, Tom decided to visit a local cafe to clear his mind, not knowing that this small decision would change his life. He sat next to Claire, a retired teacher who had spent much of her life volunteering with at-risk youth. They struck up a conversation, and before long, Claire shared her experience of rebuilding her life after a personal crisis in her 30s. Tom found himself inspired by her story, realizing that even though life had dealt him a setback, he had the power to rewrite his own narrative. What Tom didn't know was that Claire had been praying for an opportunity to connect with someone who needed guidance. Her experience had given her wisdom, but she felt that sharing it with others had become her purpose. Tom wasn't just another stranger. He was a person whose struggles aligned perfectly with the lessons Claire had learned. This encounter was no coincidence. God had aligned their paths at just the right time. Tom left the cafe that day with a renewed sense of purpose, ready to explore new possibilities and open himself up to the world of volunteering, just as Claire had done years before. This story is a perfect example of divine timing, the kind of synchrony where lives intersect at pivotal moments, often when we need each other the most. It's easy to overlook these moments, assuming they're insignificant or happenstance. But when we open our eyes, we begin to realize that every connection has a purpose. We are placed in each other's lives to teach, learn, and grow, and often, the timing couldn't be more perfect. There's a reason you met that friend when you were struggling, why that colleague offered you advice just when you needed it, or why you found yourself in a place you never intended to be, yet found a lesson that changed everything. Divine timing works in mysterious ways. It's not always immediate, and sometimes the purpose of a connection takes years to unfold. But trust that these moments, these people, are part of a much larger plan. They are the threads woven into your journey, each one leading you closer to your purpose and teaching you valuable lessons along the way. So, as you look at the people in your life, past and present, remember that you didn't meet by accident. Whether you were the teacher or the learner, God had a reason for crossing your paths at just the right time. Keep your heart open to the divine design at work in your life, and trust that every connection, no matter how brief, is a step toward your greater purpose. The lessons you taught them, more than you think, building on the idea of divine timing and how our paths cross for a reason, it becomes clear that we often teach others far more than we realize. These lessons may not always come in the form of grand speeches or direct advice, but through the simple, everyday actions and interactions we have with the people around us. Our words and actions, no matter how small, have the power to leave lasting imprints on others' hearts, shaping their choices, perspectives, and growth in profound ways. Take the story of Mia, a young woman in her 20s who had just started her career in a highly competitive field. Mia had always been ambitious, determined to prove herself, but she lacked the confidence to speak up in meetings. One day, her manager, Helen, noticed Mia's hesitation and decided to pull her aside. Rather than giving a pep talk or offering solutions, Helen simply asked, "What do you want to say, Mia? I think your voice is important." That simple encouragement opened a floodgate of possibilities for Mia. For the first time, someone had believed in her enough to create a space where she could be heard. Over time, Mia learned not just to speak in meetings but to advocate for herself, take on leadership roles, and, most importantly, believe in her worth. Helen never set out to be a mentor. She was just doing her job, trying to manage a team. Yet, through her recognition of Mia's potential and her willingness to make space for her voice, she taught Mia a lesson that would echo throughout her career. Helen showed Mia that leadership isn't always about authority or assertiveness. Sometimes, it's about creating an environment where others feel safe and empowered to grow. This story highlights how we often teach others without even realizing it. We may not have the title of teacher or be in a position to formally instruct, but we are constantly influencing those around us. Every kind word, every act of patience, every time we stand up for what we believe in, these moments all serve as lessons for others. Some lessons are taught through hardship and failure, too. Think of Chris, a man in his 50s who struggled with addiction in his youth. After years of battling his demons, he finally turned his life around. Years later, his nephew, Adam, found himself trapped in the same cycle. One evening, over dinner, Chris shared his story, not to shame Adam but to let him know he wasn't alone, that recovery was possible. Adam was moved by his uncle's honesty and bravery. What Chris didn't know was that his openness would be the turning point in Adam's life, inspiring him to seek help and begin his own healing process. Sometimes, the most valuable lessons we impart come through vulnerability. When we allow others to see our flaws and struggles, we show them the strength in facing adversity. Our imperfections become the canvas through which others learn resilience, forgiveness, and growth. The beauty of teaching through our actions and experiences is that it's often not something we can see immediately. The lessons we give out may take months, even years, to fully unfold in someone else's life. But make no mistake, they are powerful. When you help someone navigate a tough situation or simply offer them your presence in a moment of need, you are teaching them more than you may ever fully comprehend. And in doing so, you are fulfilling a divine purpose you might not even know you have. So, the next time you doubt the impact you're making, remember your influence extends far beyond what meets the eye. Whether through a quiet word of encouragement or your own courageous journey, you are teaching others in ways that could change the course of their lives. Your lessons matter more than you think. Understanding success beyond the surface. You don't always see the results. Building on the idea that the lessons we teach may not always be obvious, it's essential to understand that true success isn't always visible. We live in a world that loves instant feedback, a like, a share, a compliment, but real transformation often happens quietly and over time. When you teach someone a life-changing lesson, you may never see the fruits of your labor immediately. In fact, the most profound impact you have could be unfolding long after you've moved on from the situation, and that's the beauty of it. Consider the story of James, a high school teacher who had always gone above and beyond for his students. He wasn't the kind of teacher to hand out praise just for effort. He was tough but fair. His classroom was a place where students knew they were expected to work hard and take ownership of their learning. But one particular student, Sarah, struggled with low self-esteem and a fear of failure that often held her back. James saw potential in Sarah that she couldn't yet see in herself. He didn't give her easy outs or tell her she was fine when she wasn't. Instead, he pushed her, encouraging her to take on challenges she thought were beyond her reach. Despite James' best efforts, Sarah graduated without much fanfare. She didn't go on to college right away, and for years James had no idea where she ended up. But then, years later, he received an unexpected letter from Sarah. She shared how, after struggling through her early 20s, she had returned to school, taken risks, and found success in a career she loved. The key, she said, was something James had taught her long ago, the belief that she could do hard things, even when she didn't think she was capable. James was floored. He had never expected this. Sarah's story was a reminder that the lessons we impart may take years to manifest. Sometimes we don't get to see the direct results of our influence, but that doesn't mean it wasn't impactful. True success in these moments is found in the quiet growth that happens behind the scenes. It's in the way someone carries a lesson with them, even when we're no longer part of their daily life. The same holds true for those who mentor us. We may not always notice the influence someone has on our own life until we look back. It's easy to overlook the small, quiet moments when someone said something that shifted our perspective, or when a single act of kindness set us on a new path. In fact, those lessons often have the most enduring impact. Moreover, success is not always a straight line. The person you taught may falter, may stumble, or even lose their way temporarily. That doesn't mean your lesson wasn't successful. Sometimes, it's the difficult moments, the setbacks, or the failures that solidify the lesson more than any success ever could. In Sarah's case, her struggles were part of her growth, and James' tough love had prepared her to navigate them with resilience. What's crucial to understand is that real success is often unseen. It's not about immediate results or acknowledgement. It's about knowing that you've planted a seed in someone's life and trusting that it will grow, sometimes when you least expect it. The true measure of success is not what you see on the surface, but in the long-lasting changes that ripple through the lives of those you've touched. So, when you wonder whether your efforts are making a difference, remember this: even if you don't see the immediate rewards, the lessons you impart may be shaping someone's future in ways you'll never fully know. Your success is not just in the recognition you receive, but in the quiet, transformative power you've set in motion. Spiritual growth through teaching others. Building upon the idea that success often unfolds in unseen ways, it's crucial to recognize that teaching others not only transforms their lives but also fuels our own spiritual growth. Every time we help someone navigate a challenge or offer guidance, we are stepping into a role that deepens our own understanding, humility, and compassion. In fact, teaching others can be one of the most profound ways to grow spiritually. It connects us to something greater than ourselves and reminds us that we are part of a larger, divine plan. Take the story of David, a man in his late 40s who had been struggling with feelings of emptiness after years of focusing solely on his career. David had always believed that success was about achievement and accolades, but after losing a job he thought he would keep forever, he began to question his purpose. He found solace in volunteering at a local shelter for homeless families, something he had never considered before. At first, he was uncomfortable. He didn't feel equipped to help others who were facing such dire circumstances. But over time, as he sat with the families and listened to their stories, he realized that he was learning just as much as they were. One of the mothers at the shelter, Maria, had been through unimaginable hardship. She had lost her home, her job, and was struggling to regain her footing. Yet, despite it all, Maria had a strength and resilience that astounded David. He found himself inspired by her ability to remain hopeful in the face of adversity. Slowly, he began to open up about his own struggles, sharing his fears and vulnerabilities with Maria. She, in turn, offered him wisdom he hadn't anticipated, lessons on gratitude, perseverance, and the power of faith in times of uncertainty. David was stunned to realize that through teaching and helping others, he was learning some of the most profound lessons of his life. This exchange, where both David and Maria grew together, is a perfect example of how teaching others nurtures our own spiritual development. The act of giving, whether through wisdom, time, or simply a listening ear, draws us closer to our own inner truths. When we serve others, we stop focusing solely on ourselves and open our hearts to the larger flow of life. It's through this giving that we also receive, sometimes in the form of unexpected insights, new perspectives, or even deeper faith. The spiritual growth that comes from teaching others isn't always immediate. Sometimes, it's a subtle shift in how we view the world or a gradual change in how we approach life's challenges. For David, volunteering didn't just offer a sense of purpose. It shifted his whole perspective on success. He began to see that his worth wasn't tied to a job title or external achievements. Instead, his true purpose was in the connections he made and the lessons he passed on. The more he gave, the more he realized that his own healing and growth were deeply tied to the process of teaching and helping others. And this is true for all of us. When we step into the role of teacher, whether it's through mentorship, sharing our experiences, or simply showing up for someone in need, we align ourselves with a higher purpose. The lessons we teach aren't just about imparting knowledge or guidance. They are about creating space for both us and others to evolve spiritually. In doing so, we not only help others navigate their struggles, but also discover deeper layers of ourselves, growing in empathy, patience, and love. So, as you continue on your own journey, remember this: each time you teach, you are also being taught. The spiritual growth that comes from serving others is one of the most powerful gifts we can give ourselves. When you embrace the role of teacher, you open your heart to a deeper understanding of life's purpose and your place within it. Your ability to teach is not just a gift to others. It's a transformative force for your own soul. Conclusion: the legacy of a lesson well taught. As we've explored, teaching others doesn't just shape their lives. It leaves an enduring mark on your own soul. Through the lessons we impart, whether through words or actions, we create legacies that ripple through time, often far beyond what we can see or comprehend. The beauty of these quiet legacies is that they don't need to be grand or celebrated. Instead, they live on in the lives we touch, influencing generations in ways that may surprise us. Understanding that your role as a teacher, even in the most subtle ways, is part of a greater divine purpose is powerful. And this brings us to the final, profound truth. The legacy of a lesson well taught never truly ends. Consider the story of Nora, a woman in her 60s, who had always been a quiet force of kindness in her community. She was known for her ability to listen without judgment and offer support without hesitation. Yet, for years, Nora felt like her life had been ordinary. She hadn't written a best-selling novel or built a company from the ground up. One day, a young woman named Lily approached her in the local coffee shop, asking if they could talk. Lily was at a crossroads in her life, unsure of her career path and struggling with a broken relationship. As Nora listened, she shared a piece of advice that had been passed down to her. Sometimes, the key to finding your way is to give yourself permission to change, even if it scares you. That simple phrase, spoken with warmth and compassion, changed the direction of Lily's life. Years passed, and Nora's influence remained with Lily, who later went on to become a successful therapist herself. She often reflected on Nora's advice, passing it on to countless others who were struggling to embrace change. What Nora didn't know was that she had planted a seed that would blossom in ways she could never have imagined. Lily, in turn, would go on to help hundreds of people confront their own fears and step into new chapters of their lives. Nora's legacy lived on in the work of those she had touched, quietly shaping the lives of many. This story is a powerful reminder that our lessons don't vanish when we walk away from someone's life. They echo through time, pass down through those we've influenced, creating a ripple effect that can span generations. We often don't know the lasting impact we've made, but every word of encouragement, every gesture of kindness, every piece of wisdom shared, these things create legacies that endure far beyond our own lifetimes. When you take a step back and reflect on the people who have shaped your life, you'll realize that it's often not the grand gestures or dramatic moments that stay with you. It's the quiet, consistent lessons that were given with love and intention. These are the moments that continue to shape your decisions, actions, and growth. And the same is true for the lessons you've shared with others. Even if you never hear the words "thank you" or see the changes you've inspired, rest assured that your influence lives on. So, as you continue your journey, understand this. The legacy of a lesson well taught is not confined to any one moment. It lives on in the hearts and actions of those you've helped, shaping futures in ways you may never see but that are no less significant. When you teach with love, patience, and wisdom, you create a ripple that will continue long after you've moved on. You may never fully realize the extent of your impact, but that's the beauty of a life well lived. The lessons you impart today could change the course of someone else's tomorrow, and that, in itself, is a legacy to be proud of. Hey there, wonderful souls. Sparkling heart if you felt inspired by the story and the powerful lessons shared today. Don't let this moment slip away. Glowing star, hit that like button to spread the love, and let us know how you relate to these transformative experiences. Your thoughts and insights matter. Comment below and share your story with us. Sparkles, what lessons have you taught or learned recently? Let's start a meaningful conversation. And hey, don't stop here. There's so much more wisdom and inspiration waiting for you. Raising hands, dive into our other videos for more stories that can truly transform your perspective and empower your journey. Television, subscribe and stay connected because we're all in this together. Dizzy, let's keep growing, learning, and making a difference in each other's lives. We can't wait to hear from you. Speech balloon, let's keep the love and positivity flowing. Sparkling heart.